I'm going to start the recording and we'll go over some stuff. So what we're working on today is another part of section 8.1. Remember, this is the first operational part of the ISO standard. And it says the organization, again, that's the design hub, will implement, that means we're going to do it, and control. That means that we're going to manage it in such a way that everybody knows what they're doing and we can find it and we can retrieve it and we can keep it up to date. So we're going to have processes to meet the requirements for provision of products. So what this all means is that we have to plan and control what we do to make sure that our products and services are right. Okay? And of course, since our quality statement is right thing at the right time in the right format, that matches this. Everything we do in here should support our quality goals somehow by making the right product, ensuring that we make the right product or provide the right service. Okay, and in this section, we're going to do it by maintaining and retaining documented information. So that means that we have to plan the documents. Okay, we got to plan the documents. Hi there, Evan. We have to make sure we're using the documents. And we have to do some sort of control to make sure that if we change a document, people know about it. So maintaining and retaining, and not only that, we have to keep the documents to the extent necessary. So that's a long way of saying, and those of you who are going to be taking the English Reading 315 class, it's like, how do you pick these things apart and find out what that blah, blah, blah just meant? Well, what it means is the design hub has to know what it's doing and tell you what documents to use and keep so that we, the design hub, and our customer is confident that we've done the job in the way we planned it. Now you're going, well, shoot, I don't see any planning so far. We're just trying to get our hands on this stuff. We've done a lot of planning. You have to become aware of how that planning works. And sometimes the workers are part of the planning. As a matter of fact, a lot of times, if you have a top-down management style, you never get anything done because the plans are always wrong. Okay, so there's lots of very fluid, excellent ways of doing planning, and you have to key in to how that's done. But here's the big part. Where are your documented records that show what you've done? Okay? To know that the processes have been carried out as planned. So right now, you're in the part of the process that's developing what we call the second level workspace. We've got the meta space done, that is all the definition and what types of files we're going to use and who's the client. That's the meta project. Now you're down into the second level, and there's like usually 4 levels of stuff. We're down into the second level of planning processes. So as an example, you might be working with Professor Torres on one that has a list of things to do that all support the major process, the major goal. Or you might be working with TAC and you have on Discord 10 projects and you're getting your feet wet and starting to work one through. Okay? But we have to know that your processes that you're following are planned and carried out in a way that helps us make sure that we're delivering the right thing. Okay, so that's what you want to think about as you're working this week. You want to think of, okay, am I following a process? Am I following a process? Am I following a process? Okay, the next part is you do all this stuff to the extent necessary to demonstrate conformity of products. Now, we talked last week that you have to know what the acceptance criteria of the products are. So I'm going to state that by the time you get to demonstrating the conformity of the product, you darn well better know what the product's supposed to do, or how would you do that? Okay? Or the services. Okay? So this is like, this is the guts of it. This is where it gets hard because now we've got documented information. If it's documented information, that means that somebody can look it up and refresh their memory, learn about, make sure that something got done. Okay? Or it's documented information that says you have a project plan and you know where you're going. That's another documented set of information. So you can have the before. I have a project plan and it's documented and it's stored and it's maintained and people can retrieve it. That would be like Professor Torres's project map or project list. Okay? And that gives us confidence that the processes have been carried out. Okay? Because there's little check marks along the way. It says, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? And not only that, we have a process for conformity. So, as a matter of fact, let me pull one of those up. And I'll show you what we mean. So here's one right here. It's a project planner. And these are all part of a large overall project for design technology that says we need tutorials made. So here are the list of the tutorials. Kind of a status. Here's a who's going to do it. Helps us know. Here's a priority. Here's some planning dates. Here's in progress files, completed files. Look, in progress, delay, complete, on hold, needs approval. So there are places for us to document and note that all things happened. And because it's in Google Drive, if I go File, Version History, I can go back and see if we were doing our job as we went. So look, so I can look at the history and see if this was being used. So that was my last one. All right, so this is a planning document with certain processes, and some of the processes you sort of have to know. You have to know what we were putting in the comments and what was in an in process and what were some of the things that had to be done. So this isn't a full manual on how to do it, but this is a record that anybody could get to, and it's a document that shows who's doing what and how it's working. And that one did have conformity of product because there was an approval point. There was a point for review. Okay, edits needed, things like that. In progress, delayed, on hold, edit needed, needs approval. So that pretty much shows that we have a process to go through. So you should be asking your project leader for some sort of a document on how to do these. So let's look just really quickly at, there's a start of one on the README here. Okay, so this has project phases. So this one's still in the meta phase. Project phases. There's acceptance criteria. There's people who need to be accepted. So somebody could point to this document, and if we had a process that said, okay, before you get going, make sure that your README is clear, that would be a better process. We don't really have that. But you could point at things. Okay, and they don't have to be all the same. They have to fit the project well. But we have to have confidence that you have followed the processes that we've asked you to follow and done the things that we've asked you to do, or that you've proposed that you'll do and we said, sure, go to it, and that you've got some sort of document that demonstrates that we checked conformity of the project. So let's take a look at this really quick. Here's our project planner. So we've talked about this one. Do you know? This is all like kind of really at some metadata stuff. Who's it for? What's it for? What's a good outcome? Who's getting your transmittals? Things like that. Okay, who's going to check your work? Who established criteria for accepting your work? That might be you, by the way. You might say, I'm going to do this, and if this is it, okay, criteria for what is the criteria? How do you measure it? So these are very appropriate questions that say, okay, I don't know some stuff. I need some clarification on my job. Now, you should know that the more valuable you are as an employee, the more you do this, because you're the person who has the skill and the ability to do this. Now, in the Design Hub, we try to foster that in you. So you'll see that some of this is just going to be, yeah, I set it up. Yeah, I set it up. Yeah, I set it up. But in general, the more responsibility you have in an organization, the more of this you do. They look to you to do it. As an engineering project leader, you might be doing this, and you might be the designer too, and you might be the drafter too, and you might be the machinist in the 3D printer too. I've worked at places where everybody wore all the hats. And then I've worked at places that were very separated. So you get a chance to kind of do both of those. But what we get into now, these are some questions that will help you know that we're meeting this part of the standard. So I'm going to check this now. So for number one here, do we have confidence? Does our client have confidence? Does an auditor have confidence that processes have been carried out as planned? Well, one way is to find out if you know the critical steps that you're supposed to do to get your work done. And that'll be different in every project. But some of those critical steps are design meetings, coordination meetings, submittals, test or trials, deliveries, and of course, just the plain, if you're programming, programming. If you're drawing, drawing. If you're video editing, video editing. What are the steps that you need to do to get the work done? Do you know them? And again, how do you know them? And do we have evidence? So I think a couple of the programmers, Mark, you might have been one of them, gave me a clip of your meeting with TAC about the projects you're working on. That's exactly the type of records that shows that you're working on and developing these critical steps. You're still defining them. Okay, how do you know what they are? Well, we had a meeting and we talked about them. Do you have evidence? Yes. And it was on a transmittal. And I saw it from some people. There were a bunch of people that don't quite have Google Drive sharing permissions down yet. It's so hard because our default is not what we want. Okay, so do you know them? And then the big question is, do you know how or where to record the completion of those steps that you took to do your work? So if you're in production, it's pretty easy because people give you a work order. Okay? But if we were working on this is where you would go to signify that you've completed it. Okay, so here, this one that Cisco is working on, okay, where it says in progress, these needs approvals. Once the approvals are done, which I think I have to do still, Cisco can go in and go, done, 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 complete, right? They know where to go to do it and to record it. Okay? So that's one thing. Another one, of course, is our transmittal. Look at how much of this information is about the stuff that we've done. What are we part of? Who created it? Are you transmitting it? That's all proof that you're following our process. Where is it? Can we find the record? Okay, who's the original author? Now we start getting into job names, units. This is all about knowing what's going on. And here's the biggie right here. This is what I want to talk about today. Validated for production. That meets this. Okay? It meets that. It also meets record that you measured your work against the criteria. That's what validated for production means. Is this ready for final release or production? And then I added this to make it really clear. So I just added this. Link your review or acceptance documents. That's what goes here. Okay, so if it's validated for production, we need to know how you know. So let's say this was one of Cisco's, one of Cisco's videos he's just done. Well, he would link to this document, and it needs to say, anyone on the internet with this link can view. he would copy the link and he would put it right in there. There's your validation for production. And that document or set of documents or folder or design review thing, or you could note a Discord channel that you went over things on. Some sort of link to all that. And of course, these additional files are a great place to link to documents that would help you understand, help somebody understand that. Now, I saw this week a pretty big improvement already in how you're doing your transmittals, because I was able to click and see good work. Okay. Now, some of you got a note back that said I clicked and it said not authorized. So we do have to be very, very sure that if these links are to Google files, it's anyone on the internet with this link can view. Anyone with the link can view. That's pretty important. Okay? So that's your new part of your process checklist and the link to your transmittal form, which is just slightly modified because I gave better instructions over here. And of course, this is for completed work. Okay? If you're on work in process, this is where you're going to note what processes, what steps you still need to do. So if you're on a work in process one, which I should have put that in there. Let me go get it. So when we talk about one that's work in process, and let me put that on here really quick. Now you don't have to go looking all over for it. So when you're looking at a work in process, this is a key spot right here, because no, it's not. We even took validated out because how can it be? It's still work in process. So this becomes the key point now, that you're going to itemize those processes and those steps that still need to be done to get the work to get the job done. Okay, let's see. That covers everything that I was looking for. I think that covered what I wanted to go over with for you guys. So do you guys have any questions? Oh, I should ask Veronica. Oh, Mark, go ahead. Yeah.
Right. I have questions specific to my project, just like, I don't know if this is the place to ask.
Okay, no. And so look, here's the thing. The way we're set up, I'm your instructor, and I'm not really supposed to run your project because then I'm holding too much power over you. I'm supposed to give you a grade for what you do. So TAC is your project manager. And so he's the one that's going to go over those. However, I'm familiar with that. And so let's take that. Do the questions have to do with something that you can tie to the project sheet? Like, who is this? What is that? Who's doing the criteria? Do your questions have to do with this?
I guess not. No. I mean, I guess tech is the lead then. And,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Yep.
So the technical questions go to him.
Yep. All technical questions will go to him. So now,
Okay.
And that's a rule we're supposed to follow, because as your instructor, I'm supposed to just be monitoring how things go and making sure that TAC doesn't abuse you somehow. And make sure that you're, following the Design Hub rules and all that other kind of stuff, and giving you a grade. If I'm giving you a grade and assigning you work, they consider that I have too much power on you. Now, there are times that just because of what's going on, I'll go and answer a bunch. So hang loose till we're done here, and I will probably point you in the right direction, or at least make sure that TAC has the information, because that doesn't hurt either, especially if you haven't had an opportunity to get with TAC yet. Veronica, do you have anything to add on this about our Design Hub processes to go through? Oh, by the way, your quality blog has a lot to do with this too, right? You can see where your quality blog is a big deal on this.
Sure. So what I wanted to add was regarding Mark's question with TAC. So I know TAC said he has his meetings on Friday, but he says that you can message him on Discord anytime, and he really wants the meetings, Mark, to be not to discuss particular things that you're kind of debugging or working out with your programming. He says the meeting is just going to be like basically, like Randy was saying, the process is whether we are you're actually processing to get to the deadlines. And so it's kind of like a checklist meeting. And I don't know if we're going to be using a planner for you guys, but I do have a planner for the welding projects that I will be placing the programmers' projects on there as well. So I know TAC has access to that, but where you will have access to it too, that you will be able to place things on there, similar to like a quick access view of the planning process. Okay. So specific questions of what you're working on, he said to communicate with him on Discord. Does that answer your questions?
Okay. All of that is very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. And so, let's see. Any other quick questions?
Hey, Randy?
Yeah.
You might want to go over exactly how you switch the sharing to everyone.
Oh, okay. That's a good idea. So, here's the tough part is if you're in a shared drive, you'll notice that in a shared drive, it doesn't give you sharing for folders, which is a real pain. So when you have a document that you need to be able to share and it's in a shared drive, you actually have to click on the document, right-click share, and then what we want to do is make sure that you go down to the change and set anyone with the link can view. And then, of course, you can copy your link and done and put that wherever it needs to go. Okay, so now this here, where it says what needs to be done to be considered complete, it could be a link to a planner. It could be a link to a README, or you could literally just, where did it go? You literally could just type stuff in there. Okay, so you're able, look, the standard is very forgiving. When you read that standard, it's like, wow, that's pretty loose, right? That's pretty loose. It's not tying you down at all. And even within an organization, you don't have to tie it down. Programming is way different than 3D printing and stuff. Okay? So be sure that you're working towards those. So let's take a look and see on this README the types of things that you would be thinking of and asking. Okay? And these are probably questions that Mark has right now. So hopefully when you get assigned a project, there'll be something that tells you a little bit about the project needing the background. Okay, just so you got kind of a clue. It's just nice. Okay, and then this is my top level goal. And the reason I put this together is I talked with Vlad about it. So I'm the one that had the information. Now, really, TAC can take it from here. He's a busy guy, so I actually helped out and put this together. So Mark, the reason I'm asking you to work with TAC, especially at this point, is that, you know, he may want you to work in one program, another program might want you to do this or that. And I don't want to have too many cooks spoiling the broth right now. But as Veronica said, you can just direct message him with your questions, and he's really good at getting them back. So let's take a look. So here is telling you what they're looking for as an example. Just rote memory training. Rote memory training. Weld shop equipment. What is it? What are the basic specs? Where do you find safety stuff on the machine? And in a weld shop, there's usually maybe 5 or 6 different machines. So you could think and imagine that somebody in an AR environment, it could even be a game environment, but we'd like it to be in a 3D panorama view, or even a recognizing view through your camera on the phone, where you're going around, you see something, click, bang, okay, I recognize that. I've synced it. I know that that's my Lincoln welder. It's a 240 volt machine. It's capable of 1,000 volts DC. There's a couple of safety cutoffs so that you have to be grounded, and you have to this and you have to that. So their information can come up. Okay, so there's some training. In addition, be able to pull up the IOM manual so that you can download it and have it for your reference. Same with repair manuals, setup manuals, and then pull up a failure checklist. Every piece of equipment somewhere has a failure checklist, and if they don't have it, the weld shop will make it that says, if you strike it and it doesn't go, see if it's plugged in. If you do this and it doesn't go, check this, check this, check this. So that's the overall big top level project goal. And of course, we're not there to just make that yet. So most projects will have phases. Okay? Here, each of these are essentially a phase, and they have their own phases to them. Okay, so it can get complex or not. So just right off the bat is just to use some sort of a 360 view. And then if I were to click on that welder right there, it would come up with some specs. Or if I was in safety training, I would go, okay, that can't be on the ground. You can't be blocking your electrical with a tank. That's like the worst place for a tank. There's probably tons of other stuff along here. Cords laying on the ground. Open plug laying on the ground. Tools laying out. Those are safety violations. Materials that are not strapped. There's probably there's tons of others, right? I could, if I were to go, that's probably a piece of equipment that should not be on the ground. This should not be touching the ground if it's coiled properly. Guard is up. Guard should always be down, even when it's not turned on. Not sure what this thing is. There's a fire extinguisher. I'll bet you if we zoom in on the fire extinguisher, it's probably out of spec. Look, how do you get to this? There's supposed to be clear way in front of the shower, and it might be tagged as okay. We'll see what the latest date is on the shower. So you can see just something like this, where as you turn by holding it with your camera, and then you click on something, or be able to click, and have something come up that you can say what's wrong. That would be a really great thing for them. Okay? Has to have an exit button. Can operate on an iPhone. Who knows what version we want to do this to. Second phase is a recognition feature. Okay, the first phase is just that 360 view on your phone, so that orients it as you're looking around. The second phase is the recognition feature, and the third phase is a pop-up for information. Either this is safe, this is not safe, or how many volts is this, and things like that. So those are the three phases. And the fourth phase, which, wow, I'm not positive how you do this. The other ones, I know that I've seen the software that can do it. I don't know the software, but I've seen it, so I know it can be done. This is the hardest part, is getting that feedback into some set of numbers that can be used in a safety training system to say if somebody passed or didn't pass. Okay, so from that, you should then be able to go back to your checklist and go through it and find out where the holes are. And before you start working on all the technical part, find out how your project manager is doing this for which project you're on. Okay? Once you've done that, you start getting into the meat of it. Okay, am I going to use Cordova? Am I going to do this program? Am I going to use that program? Do I have access to it? Do we have to buy it? All that kind of stuff then goes right to TAC if you've got this sort of down. And look, do you know the criteria for accepting your work? Your boss might need to figure that out based on what you know. So this could be a conversation with you and your boss, or the boss might just say, Give me a process. Give me a test. I've had to do that. I don't know how many thousands of times. I do a design, and the engineering manager says, "Okay, make the test sheet for it, make the OEM sheet for it, make the warranty sheet for it, make the marketing sheet for it," and you just have to do all that kind of stuff, and then it gets approved by people. Cool. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
It's a
Oh,
lot
that's
of
cool.
work, isn't it? It's like, man. But this is the part this will set you apart from all the other interns that went and did something and really can't talk about it. I'm telling you, you put something like this down in front of of an employer who's interviewing you, and right off the bat, they're going to get into this. And I've had it happen with some of our students who have really put their quality blogs in front of them and got to it. And their 15-minute interview lasted 3.5 hours. It's like, wow, they love this stuff. They love this stuff. Evans, does this all make sense to you?
A bit of it, yeah. I mean, like Tristan said, it is a lot, and it's just kind of something where it's just
Yeah, answer the questions. So look, you have 3 or 4 documents, right?
Mhm.
You have a quality blog, you have a transmittal. Those are the 2 main things that you're working on. And hopefully you've got a project plan of some sort. Now, those are being developed still. Okay, but at least you should hopefully be assigned a project by now, so that by the end of this week, you should have something done. And I know everybody always wants to get going. I want a program. And we get crap. I'm telling you, we get lousy work that doesn't meet our needs. So we know that this is how you do it. When I first started at Wemco, read the manual. Okay? When I started at Ames, read the manual. When I started at Tri-Tool, man, get down on the mill and learn how to use it, because you don't even know what you're doing. I spent 3 months running a mill before I could be an engineer there, because I didn't know what I was doing. So this is the most important stuff that you can do to get this straight. So, and you don't have that many things. Seems like it, but there's not that many. There's a transmittal. There's a process worksheet that you just start filling out. This gets done all the time. This gets done once on each project. And then you have your quality blog. That's it. Those 3 things. Now, are you also supposed to keep track of your time? Yes. Supposed to keep track of your time. But that's it. And it's all focused around these questions right here. Does that help, Evans?
Yeah. I think I just remember you made a mark about something I did wrong with my.
Well, that
myself.
okay. That was on. I think so. So let's go look at. Let's take a look at this time card submittal. Here's what many people left off. You didn't do that. Many people didn't do that. So that's one of the things. I don't remember if you did that or not, but that probably a third of the submittals are missing that. It's like, dang.
I mean, I wrote that, but I
Okay.
also wrote afterwards, the additional 2 hours for
Right,
Friday.
and that's fine, but I need this. I was scheduled to work so many hours. I actually worked so many hours, and this is my total for the semester. So there's one. Let's take a look at the next one. Do your transmittal. You should have at least a work in process or at least a completed work. if you did not complete a major step, and what's complete? That's why you're supposed to know these processes. When you got a major thing done, submit it. I don't want to know at the end of the semester that you did everything right. I want to know each week that you did everything right. So this is every week. And you either are working in process and you know the steps that you're taking that need to be done, or you finished something. And you know that somebody approved it. Okay, so that's where that one hangs in. So is that one making some sense now?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's take the next one. So this is one where people, look, it's hard to measure productivity. It's hard because it's hard to get stuff done when you're trying to figure out, we don't know what you know, and we're trying to figure it out. Okay, so just answer these questions. Okay, if you were supposed to do a 3D model and it was supposed to take you 3 hours and you got it done, but it took 6, you would say, I was supposed to do a 3D model in 3 hours. I got it all done, and it took me 6 hours. So what level of productivity is that? Well, it's 50%. You were trying to get it done in 3, and it took you twice as long. And what could you do better? Well, the expectations might have been bad. Says, man, I can't believe the boss thought I could do that in 3 hours. What a ludicrous idea. Or you could say, well, my power went out 10 times. I had to restart, and I had to redo this, and I had to redo that. Okay, there's nothing you can do about that. But if you go, well, I did it, and it was good, but I wanted to make it better, so I spent more time, then we'd start looking at, do you know the acceptance criteria? And did you do 3 hours of extra work that were needed or not? So this all ties together, and it's just like, there's the plan right there. Cut and paste. Cut and paste. I've given you the format, cut and paste each week.
It's definitely was the productivity one.
Yeah. Okay. So it's cut and paste, cut and paste.
Okay.
And then on the transmittals, like I said, the main thing was they were all looking pretty good, but I wasn't getting, for many people, I wasn't getting the link to come across. So now, what does all this mean? Here's, anybody know what my moniker is? I used to have it on my website and all that kind of stuff. Many of you may have heard me say it. Number 9, number 9, number 9. Anybody know what number 9, number 9, number 9 means? Cool. Okay. Anybody heard of Miyamoto Musashi? Okay.
Is that the Nintendo guy?
Not a Nintendo guy. Maybe. Musashi was an actual swordsman in about 1600, and he was considered the greatest swordsman of his time. And he was a brute. He would be like Shaquille O'Neal size to Steph Curry, right? And not that Steph Curry isn't highly talented, but Shaquille O'Neal is big, strong, fast, And so he was like that, and he used 2 swords that were longer than anybody else's, and he just went around for about 10 or 15 years whacking everybody. And then this Buddhist monk kind of captured him and tied him up for a month or two and said, "You're a brute. You know nothing. You're just big and strong. Why don't you learn how to be a samurai?" And somehow he got through to this guy, and he did. He put his swords away. He never used his swords again. He had tons of duels, but he'd either go without a sword and disarm his opponent and use his sword, or use a stick or an oar or something like that. And he stopped killing people. Okay. Eventually, he got to be in his 60s, and he wrote a book. He says, "I got it. I figured it out. I figured out how to be good. And I really am good now." And he wrote 9 rules. And in very classic Japanese style, the 9th rule was the hardest rule, and it brought all the other 8 rules together. And that rule, number 9, is do nothing that is useless. Now, there were 8 other rules that help you understand what that means, but the first part of do nothing that is useless, the whole rest of his book is how to do that within the sword fighting range. But he was a great calligrapher. He was a agronomist. He was a farmer. He did all sorts of things. He did poetry eventually. I'll take that call in a minute. So to do nothing that is useless, you first have to know what is useful. Otherwise, you're just dinking around. So these things that I'm asking you to do here are to prompt you to know what is useful so that you work on do nothing that is useless. There we go. That's the overall lesson. So we'll keep working, and that's why I like the ISO 9001. That's really what they're saying here. Make sure that you're working on stuff that is useful to your client. There. That's what that says. Okay? And prove it. Okay? So everything will go back to that. Cool. All right. So Mark, if please direct message TAC and see if he can answer your questions. If he can't answer them by tomorrow afternoon, message TAC and me, and I'll see what we can do, because we do want you actually moving forward. If you're stuck right now, we don't want you to be stuck. And so if you're at a place where you're stuck, technically TAC will be able to help with that, and I don't want to get in the way of that. Cool?
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then there we go.
Oh, and
yeah.
Mark, real quick, he usually is available in the afternoons, like after 1. Those are the best times to get him on Discord.
Okay. I've been talking to TAC a little bit on Discord. I know what you mean.
Okay, great.
He replies
Okay.
pretty fast and everything. I was still
Perfect.
confused about who I was, who's like the lead and everything. But now I know.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's all good.
Oh, okay. So that's cool. So let's actually, that's a great point to clarify. So project organization, you can always ask Veronica or myself, because we do know who's in charge of what and who's doing things like that. If you need resources, let's say you need an iPhone. I'm not sure we can buy an iPhone, but we'd look into it, right? If you need something. If you need a program downloaded onto a Design Hub computer, we'd get Tristan to do that because he's got administrative capabilities on those things. So There's a bunch of things that we can do. So if they're organizational, that's what we would do. If they're what to turn in and things like that, it's me. Technical, what we consider is being, okay, I'm having problems with getting this file to work, this code to work, interfacing between this file sharing and this and that and things like that. Cool?
I do want to make a note. These systems are frozen, and due to the VM nature of them, I'm not sure if I can install stuff for other people.
Okay. I will. Okay, that's a good note. IT is supposed to give us access to the instructor station whenever we want it so that we can undo that. So let me, I'm going to make a note of that. Thank you.
Okay.
Note.
And while Randy's doing that, Evans, we do have a meeting on Monday. I'll send you an invite and look for that. It's Monday afternoon. Let me look at my calendar, and that would involve you to be in that meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you, Veronica.
Let me look. Hold on.
And then, Evans, do you have a model to be working on right now?
As far as it goes, the workshop was done aside from like the texture, like because the texture was one that I guess like someone volunteered in taking over the Photoshop portion of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're
aside
pretty
from
much
that-
done with that, and you need a new model to make, right?
Evans?
Mhm.
Does the workshop have an internal mesh to it?
An internal mesh? I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, as far as it goes, it was just a box model of a previous model I had, and the door is open.
Yeah, so if we're inside of it, it would just be invisible walls, essentially.
Something like that. I mean, if there was walls for it, it probably could be added.
Yeah, maybe take the walls, duplicate it, and invert the normals.
Something like that.